tell me, and we're going to work on it with whatever tools we have available, and we'll walk through this with you. It's likely she would fire me at that point, but
So you would have withheld the information that she could stop steroids?
no, I wouldn't withhold it.
Would you? No, but would you tell her? Because she might not. How would she know that? She wouldn't know it unless, because you'd only know that if you were a doc, probably.
No, if she said, I want this to be over, how can it be over?
You would say you could stop the steroids.
Oh, yeah, I could say, yeah, one option is you could stop the steroids. You have authority to do that. And then we have a conversation from there. But I wouldn't do that as an intention of, hey, here's a way you could do it. I would do that as a matter of just candor and I think honesty and integrity if someone asked me a question.
Well, anyway,
We might get more questions about it. So let me flip it around, and I'd like you to think a little bit of the vulnerability question and the trust in the medical profession. So I'm looking around this audience. How many of you learned about this at the NPR announcement? How many of you listen to NPR? If you listen to NPR, my guess is you're a pretty good self-advocate. You're people who can work your way through systems and find doctors, find practitioners to work with you. And so Dr. Curlin is raising this issue, of thinking about people who don't have that, the people whose life experiences made it hard for them to trust practitioners, clinicians, and their fear that they are a vulnerable group. They don't know. They have a harder time articulating questions, knowing how to work the system, and find themselves dependent on the caregiver. And he's raised the question, just with the widespread legalization of physician-assisted suicide, still more undermine their ability to trust that the caretaker is in fact working in their interests. What do you think of that?
It's possible. It's possible. Again, these same arguments were used 25 years ago to say that we shouldn't be able to stop life supports, because these are our most expensive and vulnerable patients, and if they know we can stop them, how are they going to trust us? How are they going to go to sleep at night? And again, and I think that it's a legitimate question, but now we have 25 years of data to say that doctors are pretty responsible about these kinds of things. So I think that is a question. Certainly people who are worried about this issue are frightened by this conversation. Not Dead Yet group would be frightened by this conversation we're having tonight, had the notion that there could be legal access to this. But truthfully, I have a huge number of patients in my practice who are members of Not Dead Yet, right? Because basically they also really want to be listened to. And what they know about me is I listen. Whatever it is that they're saying, I listen. And again, now not everybody does that. And again, on either side of this debate, I think we would say that maybe that is. But this says if you're going to make a big decision like any of these things, the best protection in my mind is to have a process that's out in the open, where you get smart people involved and you document what the hell it is you're doing. And to me, that is the real plus of this. It is reassuring to me, at least in Oregon and Washington, even though there has been some increase over time, it's still a very infrequent practice. We're now 18, 19 years into Oregon.
And I know I want to give the audience time for questions too, so I just want to throw out one last one. You made a comment, I think, partway through your talk too, Dr. Quill, that if there are practitioners whose conscience basically doesn't allow them to offer physician-assisted dying, where suicide is an option, they should be able to opt out. Now let's imagine physician-assisted dying is not only made legal, but it's, say, accepted by medical associations, by the AMA, by the lead professional organizations. You have probably seen the recent editorial by Ezekiel Manuel, really making the argument that there really should, if that happened, if the profession itself accepted this as legitimate practice, practitioners should not be able to opt out. That's not analogous to conscious objection. I'm wondering how you would respond to that.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to live in Rochester or here, where there are tons of doctors around, you know, then I think you have the opt-out option. Because I do think doctors have to be able to get up in the morning, that you have to be able to live with what you are doing and not doing. Now, having said that, I would say that if you are going to opt out, my personal view is that you really need to think hard about what things you can do that are very specific. So is sedation okay? Could you support the person stopping eating and drinking? Are any of these options that, because they're clearly telling you something that they would really want. And you've already evaluated them. It's not depression, it's not these other things. So you have to figure out which of these things can you do and can you discuss? Because a lot of people, once they know that there could be an escape, they then live more comfortably for the rest of their lives, and they're not going to need it. So so it's just saying no is insufficient, is okay, but it's insufficient. Then you have to say what can you do if you can't do that? That would be my take, and that would be the challenge to the folks who say no. And I think they should say no. If you can't live with it, you really should say no, because you really do have to wake up the next day, even in a legal environment.
And
Yeah,
I think you should say no, not because of your sleep or sleeplessness, but because you're a physician. And what the society has a good reason to insist on and demand from physicians is that they fulfill their profession. But that raises the question, what is it to which we have professed? Ezekiel Manuel's piece and others have started to raise this, suggests that what we've professed is to provide healthcare services that are legal and that the profession has not prohibited. And if you're not willing to provide all such services, get out of the profession. That's a very different vision for what medicine is about than what medicine has had for many centuries, which is that you profess to attend to people who are sick so as to preserve and restore their health. And when patients ask you to do something that contradicts that commitment, you say no. And when the society starts to say you must do what they're saying, despite the fact that it contradicts their health, then the society is making an unjust claim. And from there you move forward with civil disobedience and so on if you need to. But that's what Canada is doing, by the way, as we speak, in the province of Ontario. It's being litigated through the courts, but they have passed a rule saying that physicians must take positive action and effect a referral for euthanasia or have the threat of losing their license.
Thank you. Well, I would like to give, there have to be some questions in this audience. So Nikki and Marjorie are on the sides with microphones. And I will call upon you first. And if you could take the microphone though, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very informative and thought-provoking presentation. I fear that I may have to throw a bit of a monkey wrench in here. You have presented in an excellent manner a medical model. I, however, ascribe to a, you might call it, civil rights model. And by that, I mean I am a competent adult. I have the autonomy to choose, as long as I remain mentally competent, how, when, where, and with whom I will end my life. And with all due respect to physicians, because they've saved me from a brain tumor and breast cancer, but in order to get dead, I do not need a doctor. And the reason for that, as you may be guessing, is not only did I come from the Hemlock Society, I also come from 10 years with Final Exit Network and as one of their senior guides. So I know very well how to end my own life. I have made a well thought out, carefully planned decision, and my choice will be the use of an inner gas. Now, I hope that someday we'll be able to eliminate some of the ethical dilemmas that physicians find themselves in by patients and people taking self-responsibility for their own death the way they have taken self-responsibility for their lives. So, there you have it.
I just appreciate your one part of your point, which is that you don't need a physician to nor does anyone need a physician to efficiently take their own life. And I'll set aside the question of whether that's a good decision for you.
Well, sir, it is a good decision for me, and as long as I remain mentally competent and able to choose, I know how to do it, I have the means, and I will do it on my own terms when I choose. And let me tell you, when the diagnosis of dementia hits, the clock starts ticking.
And the clock is ticking, so I'm going to take a